And one of the reasons why I'm very excited about the playoffs is this is one of those years where you don't have just Alabama and Georgia standing so much higher above everybody else.
That is true.
I think there's a lot of great teams.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on this week's Throwdown Thursday edition, it's about week 12 of the college football season. In segment 1, we're going to talk Power 4, and there's a lot of belly aching, as Coach Galata would say. We're going to talk about that belly aching. In segment 2, we're going to talk about the group of 5, and only one of you are going to the dance, one ticket. And in segment 3, we will talk about things strictly for entertainment purposes only. Let's jump into it. We're going to start with the SEC. We had a lot of good wins. A lot of good wins in the SEC. Georgia got a good win. South Carolina's got a good win. And Florida did. Lackluster performance by Texas. You better win better than that or you're going to get your feelings hurt. And bad losses by Tennessee, Missouri, and LSU. And you got some chirping on the sidelines that I hope some of our guests will talk about the chirping. The conference now has 6 schools with 2 losses or less in conference play. And we also got some folks on the hot seat with us today. My favorite former sports reporter, as well as our Notre Dame correspondent, Jake Schaller. Jake, go wherever you want with the SEC. What are you thinking, man?
Well, I mean, it's a dogfight this year. It's the interesting thing, I think, and for the playoffs in general, and one of the reasons why I'm very excited about the playoffs is this is one of those years where you don't have just Alabama and Georgia standing so much higher above everybody else.
That is true.
I think there's a lot of great teams. Now, I understand, I get this SEC folks, what they say, and how they deserve the entire conference should be in the playoffs and everything. I mean, it's a great conference, and you have to really play good quality teams week in and week out. But it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out here down the stretch. Any of these teams could get knocked out. I'm looking at that Texas A&M game. That's going to be a huge one. You see, Florida rising up and beating LSU. I mean, there's any given day in the SEC, there could be somebody who rises up and gets a win that you don't really expect. So it's going to be fun to see down the stretch.
All right. And also joining us today, because most fans don't know, he's a football guy too. Coach Johnson. Coach, what you thinking about the SEC this week?
Well, again, I agree with Jake that it is probably still the best overall conference in football. But again, you're talking about teams with 2 losses, and before it's over, somebody's going to have 3 losses. And the funny thing about that conference, as powerful it is, it's a tough conference to coach in because you get 3 losses in that conference, you could be looking for a new job.
Yes.
It is very serious about how they take football there. But again, like you said, there was some good wins yesterday. I watched that Georgia game myself. They really jumped on Tennessee in the second half. The South Carolina win was big. LSU lost. And again, I'm not a Brian Kelly fan. He seems to, when he's winning, he got great things to say, but when he loses, it's always somebody else's fault.
Jake, do you want to jump in on that, or are we just going to let that go, sir?
Oh, I mean, if you want to talk about the amount of, I guess, sour grapes and enjoying other people's pain that Notre Dame fans are having this last weekend, I mean, it is all the memes, all the things on Twitter that Florida put out. Notre Dame fans are taking a little too much enjoyment, I think, in seeing Brian Kelly suffer. But I would be lying if I said I don't kind of like it a little in a way because just some of the things he said on the way out the door,
Yes. Yes.
were not really great. And like Coach said, when things are going great, he's a politician and he says all the right things. But the moment things get bad, he's blaming kids. It's
Yes, he
always somebody
is.
else's fault. And so I can't say that I'm shedding any tears that he had a bad loss yesterday.
And I'm
Go
happy,
ahead.
and I'm happy the way Notre Dame's playing. I'm
Yes.
happy the way they're playing.
Yeah.
Early on, when they had their first loss, they was calling for the guy's head.
Yeah.
Now no
Yeah, I
one has
know.
anything to say. He's doing a heck of a job over there.
He's doing a fantastic job.
Yes, he is.
And he's one of the things that people were really excited, me too, about Marcus Freeman was the recruiting.
Yes.
And while he hasn't really landed a bunch of the top 5-star guys, the quality depth that he has built through recruiting is unbelievable. We lost Benjamin Morrison, who's a cornerback. We lost him for the season. And in years past, that would have been it. We wouldn't have been able to do anything. This year they roll in Leonard Moore, who's a true freshman, and he's picked up right where Morrison left off.
Yes.
They've lost guys along the defensive front, and they're just plugging other guys in. So Coach Freeman has done an amazing job with the recruiting, and you can just see him developing as a game day coach. And I mean, I love him. I've loved him since day one, and I am totally in the tank for him. And I'm excited that he's getting things going in the right direction.
All right. We're going to go with the Big Ten now. Good wins by Ohio State, Penn State, Illinois, USC, trying to get bowl eligible, and Rutgers. Lackluster performance by Oregon. You have to win better than that. And bad losses by Nebraska and Maryland. Quick notes, Indiana was on a bye. And please don't talk schedule with me. National media is talking about how Indiana didn't play somebody and this, that, and the other. Last I checked, Texas ain't played nobody either, but that's another story for another day. Jake, talk to me. What are you thinking about the Big Ten?
Well, I think this weekend will be very interesting to see how Indiana does against Ohio State. I mean, that's a huge one. It's really their first big test that they have. But it's a great story. I think they may even get in the playoff even if they lose to Ohio State. But we'll see about that. The Big Ten's interesting. I think Ohio State, obviously they had the loss to Oregon, but I think they may still be the team to beat there. Penn State just can't seem to get over that hump. I mean, I don't know. It's too bad. I thought this might be their year. But who knows?
So did I, strictly for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing about the new college football playoff. In years past, they don't beat Ohio State or they don't beat Michigan in the regular season, and that dooms them. Now, they're probably in the playoff as of right now, and they get another shot. So it'll be interesting. But for as far as entertainment purposes go, I like betting against Purdue. That's something I'm doing week in and week out.
All right, Coach Johnson, you have heard on the other shows the ragging I get for my Penn State and James Franklin. What are your thoughts on the Big Ten this week?
Well, again, what's interesting is, should Indiana have waited until after the Ohio State game before they gave my man an 8-year new contract? I mean, listen, good for him. Good for him.
Go Mel Phillips. Mel Tucker, excuse me, Mel Tucker, not Mel Phillips.
And it wouldn't have mattered if, they waited or not. He is deserving of that. They want to keep him. I'm a Penn State fan, naturally being from Philadelphia, but Franklin got to be the top 25 team. I mean, he got to be the top 25 team. This thing about, 25 straight wins against non-ranked opponents don't mean nothing. He got to be the top 25 team. Is he going to win? He's always going to be a very good coach. He's a good recruiter. But I don't know if he can get them over the hump. For whatever reason, I'm not sure if he can. Nebraska, you thought early in the season they were going to do some things.
Matt Rule usually does well his second year.
He usually does. But right now, I don't know where he's at, where they're at. I do think Ohio State is still the top tier team in that conference. Even though Indiana's having a super year, at the end of the day, I wouldn't bet against Ohio State.
All right. We're going to go Big 12. Fans, I told you, Coach Johnson, he's good, man. All right, Big 12. Good win by Colorado, Arizona, Kansas. They messed it up. Yeah. Arizona State, Baylor, and Iowa State. Bad losses by BYU, Kansas State, and West Virginia. Hey, fans, this is going to be a one-bid conference. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Big 12 is one bid. Jake, talk to me. Big 12, where you at?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's going to be a one bid conference. I think BYU, man, they had it all right in front of them. But
What the bed? What the bed?
yeah, especially at home, you got to win that game. Look, the Dion story, the Colorado story is a great story. And last year after that start, everybody was so excited, and then it came back to reality a little bit. But look, he went out and got some guys for the offensive and defensive lines, and it's a fantastic story. I mean, if he can take that program, which was so bad, and
Yes.
in 2 years get that into the
Yes.
into the college football playoff, I mean, that is a heck of a feat. And I don't know. I don't know if I'd bet against them in that conference. I don't know who might beat them.
All right, Jake, I got to stay with you a little bit because fans of the show may know Jake used to cover Colorado sports. Colorado went from 1 win to 4 wins to 8 wins in 3 years. That's National Coach of the Year kind of territory, if you're asking me. Jake, with your historical knowledge of that program, any additional thoughts you have on what Coach Prime has done this year?
Yeah, it's really interesting because before I got out there, Colorado in the, I guess, early all throughout the 90s was a great team. Challenging for national championships year in and year out. They really had it going there. Gary Barnett had it going for a few years there too. I was there right at the end, the year that he was fired. That's when that's the one year I coached or I covered them. And they brought in Dan Hawkins and guy after guy that you thought would get it back going because they had some problems. They had some issues with facilities, with funding for the program. It didn't have quite the things that some of the other schools in the big, I guess they were in the Big 12 back then too. Some of those schools had, they were up against a Texas and Oklahoma, those type of schools. They just couldn't compete. But I was very shocked to see how far they fell. I mean, they were legitimately among the worst handful of football programs in the country for a few years. So yeah, I mean, to see what Coach Prime has done in 2 years, it is Coach of the Year stuff. I don't know who you'd put above him.
Outside of the guy who just got a big check. Coach Johnson, what are you thinking about the Big 12?
Well, I agree with both of you that easily, in my mind, Coach Prime is Coach of the Year. It is amazing what he has done with that program. Again, like you guys say, in 2 years, 1, 4, and now 8. Not just 8 wins. His team is playing super. They're disciplined. They play well. When you think of even with the amount of sacks, unfortunately, that his young son is taking, the offense is unbelievable. I don't think there's a better quarterback in the country. And for whatever reason, people don't want to say that because of Prime himself. His son's a heck of a quarterback. The defense playing super, and I think it's also overlooked in terms of how well his coaching staff is. I mean, he got guys on his coaching staff that know what the hell they doing. They really, and he allows them to coach. That's another thing about being Coach of the Year. Here we is. I'm an Eagles fan, and we got a head coach that's trying to get involved in everything. He about to mess it up. He allows his guys to coach. He has a great offensive coordinator in Pat Shermer, who has Shador's ear. He gets him to understand and play the right way. I like them coming out of that conference. I like them coming out of the conference.
Yeah, and again, that's going to be a one-bid conference.
I agree.
We're next up, ACC. Good win. Stanford got a win. Syracuse. And Mac Brown is going to go out shining. Please don't come back, Mac. But
yeah,
keep coming. Go out like a soldier.
This is his last year for sure. This is his last year for sure.
Lackluster performance by SMU. You got to play better. And Clemson. Oh man, Pitt just gave it to you. Bad losses by UVA. Sorry about that, Jake. You needed them to have something going in. Louisville, Pitt, and I'm sorry. If they get two teams, it's a miracle. Jake, what are you thinking about the ACC?
Yeah, I think this will be kind of one of these leagues where you might see it might be kind of like the NCAA Big Dance where, it looks like a conference is just getting won and then somebody rises up out of nowhere and wins the conference championship. Who knows who's going to be in that title game. Maybe they get somebody, maybe a team that has a couple losses ends up winning, and I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it probably is just a one bid league. I do think it's probably Clemson that gets out of there.
I'm an SMU guy.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Strictly for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's the ACC is an interesting conference right now because I don't think it's clearly not at the level of a SEC or a Big Ten, but there are a lot of pretty good teams there. Not a lot of world beaters, but a lot of pretty good teams. I mean, Miami, Clemson, SMU. There's a bunch of guys in there that can win some games. So I don't know. It'll be an interesting conference to see what happens here down the stretch.
Coach, before I get to you, Jake, Clemson plays South Carolina at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina is clearly a second tier SEC team, and Clemson is the class of the ACC along with Miami and SMU. If they get boat raced by South Carolina, you can't honestly have them ranked in a decent level, even if they make the ACC championship. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, 100%. I mean, that's the one thing when you have those kind of crossover games.
Because they played Georgia and got killed. And if South Carolina, a clearly second-tier team, runs them off the field, what does that say about the ACC as a conference?
Yeah, no, it would be a pretty bad indictment of the conference. And look, the Georgia game was shocking how little of a fight they put up. But you can kind of say, okay, well, that was the first game of the season. We're breaking guys in, and now look where we are at the end of the year. Now we got things rolling. But I agree with you. If South Carolina puts it on them, boy, that looks really bad for this conference.
All right, Coach Johnson, what are you thinking about the ACC?
Well, again, I agree that Clemson right now is the top of the conference, but Miami's not having a bad season. Miami's not playing bad. I was shocked yesterday with South Carolina's win, and again, they can win on any given Sunday. They really can. They got some dudes. They just got, constantly got to put it together. I do think they're going to get one bid also out of that conference. On paper, it looks like Clemson. Again, I think the last game of the year between Clemson and South Carolina is going to dictate who in that conference will go.
All right. And to close off, Jake, we're going to hopefully clip this for the selection committee. Give me your final thoughts on Notre Dame as we close segment one. Why should they be in there despite not having a conference championship game or anything like that? Tell America why Notre Dame needs to be in the playoffs.
Well, look, I think the reason is the defense. I think they've got a maybe not a championship level defense, but they have a playoff caliber defense. And look, I get it. Their schedule hasn't been good this year. But some of that is just the luck of the draw. I mean, who thought Florida State was going to be such a, train wreck? Who thought USC wasn't going to be any good? Louisville was supposed to be better, and now they've had a couple losses. Like, they've had a schedule that on paper, if you just looked at it, 5 years ago, you'd say, oh, wow, that's going to be a good schedule. Like at Florida State, SC, like this is, Texas A&M, this is a quality schedule. And it just so happened that it just, it didn't work out that way. I think being an honest Notre Dame fan, we have a good team. We have a good team. Is it a great team? I don't think so. I just offensively, we don't, I think we have two fantastic and maybe now three amazing running backs Riley Leonard does a great job with his legs. The passing game just isn't quite where it needs to be a real threat in the playoff. The offensive line is good, but it's young and still kind of coming along. The defense is fantastic. But they've had some injuries, but they've kind of filled in for that. But look, I think they're a playoff team. I don't know if I think maybe they can win a game, but they are not quite at that level, that great level yet. Just not enough difference makers, kind of on the edge, that you need to play with some of these top tier Big Ten and SEC teams.
All right, but Notre Dame should be in the playoffs, and we'll flush that out in segment
Just
3.
keep winning. Just keep winning. They're in the playoffs right now.
When we get back in segment 2, we're going to go group of 5, and some of you messed it up for yourselves. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Save Project and author of Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. This book is your key to unlocking the secrets of being a successful student athlete. Drawing from my 30-year career as a teacher and coach, this instructional guide offers a unique perspective on achieving success in both academics and athletics. With over 15 personal stories and insightful anecdotes, Finding the Balance is a must-read for student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators. Visit www.ckasaveproject.org to get your copy and start finding the balance today. In segment 2, we got group of 5. In the American Conference, good wins by Tulane. They made the championship game. ECU got a good win. I believe they're going to be bowl eligible. UTSA, USF, University of South Florida is finally winning. Too late for me. And Memphis is winning again. Might be able to sneak something in. Bad loss by Navy. And darn it, Navy, Notre Dame needed you to play better. We got Army and Tulane in their championship game. Jake, any thoughts on the American with Army coming up to South? No, you guys are playing somewhere else. Talk to me about the American, especially Army, as they're about to play Notre Dame.
Sure. Yeah. So, they're playing up at Yankee Stadium this coming weekend. I'll be up there for that one. Yeah, it'll be great. But it's I can't believe how Navy has fallen off. They had such a nice start to their season. Then they just kind of collapsed against Notre Dame with turnovers and it was just a terrible performance. And since then, they just haven't kind of gotten back on their feet. Army is going to be interesting. They're just a good football team, not just a good service academy team. They're a very good football team. But, people complain about Notre Dame's schedule. Take a look at Army's schedule. It's been, it hasn't been that great to put it mildly. So we'll see what happens this weekend. But I think Tulane probably comes out of that conference.
Okay. Coach Johnson, any thoughts on the American?
That's not a conference I've kept up with.
Yes, because Temple's terrible.
We're real bad. Man, in fact, the sad thing is Temple just got a new president. And there was some rumor that he wanted to get rid of football. They're not going to allow that. But
no, you can't do that.
They got to get better. And again, teams in that conference, one of the things they suffer from is NIL money. They can't pay what some of these other schools are paying. And it's not just in football. It's in basketball and other sports for teams in that conference. So again, I was surprised that Navy's lost. I was very surprised that the way they lost.
Yes. Yes. You can lose, but try not to get, killed at home like that.
Right.
All right. We're going to go Mountain West and Pac-2. Good wins by Boise State. Oh, you are hanging on and you are running that guy into the ground. Colorado State, New Mexico. Sorry, Robert. I shouldn't have picked against New Mexico. Utah State. Hey, Jake, Air Force got to win. Yeah. And UNLV. How you feeling, whoever that guy is that always I have to be reminded of his name. Bad losses by Washington State. You had a shot, the small shot, but now you got no shot. And Oregon State, if Boise State wins out. I think they're in the CFP because they have the best loss. Jake, any thoughts about the Mountain West or the Pac-2?
Yeah, I think you're right on Boise State. I think that's, that running back is fantastic.
Yes, he
And,
is.
and he is the real deal. So I think they get in. That's my thought. Other than that, not a whole lot going on in that conference.
Playing for bowls. Coach Johnson, any thoughts on the Mountain West? Or they're playing for bowls?
I don't expect Boise to lose the game the rest of the year. And as good as Travis Hunter has been this year, the running back from Boise State is like off the charts. What he's doing right now is Heisman worthy.
Heisman worthy. Invite him to New York.
Yes.
But if you don't give that thing to Travis Hunter, it's a conspiracy.
well, I think Travis is the Heisman. I will say that. But this young man is playing well. Although the thing about him that makes me laugh is his dream NFL team is Dallas. He might want to rethink that one. So,
We're gonna move on to Conference USA. Good wins by Liberty, but not enough. You got to win by more, strictly for entertainment purposes only. Louisiana Tech, Jacksonville State, as well as Sam Houston. Bad losses by Western Kentucky. And we're going to go straight to the Sun Belt. Good wins by Marshall, JMU, Arkansas State, USA, that's University of South Alabama, Texas State, bad losses by Georgia Southern, Louisiana, y'all supposed to win this thing. So they're playing for bowls. Jake, I don't even know if you've even watched any Sun Belt. Any thoughts? No, wait. You have to watch the Sun Belt because of JMU.
That's
so
right.
Tell me why JMU is sticking up the joint right now.
Yeah, I don't know. This has been, this has been a little bit of a curious year for them. I think people thought this was, they could be pushing for maybe even that playoff spot, especially after last year, but hasn't quite worked out that way.
All right, Coach Johnson, do we look at any Sun Belt football, or are we just playing for bowls?
Playing for bowls.
Okay. And speaking of playing for bowls, we got Maction. So since Maction takes place before the show comes out, we'll just say that Miami of Ohio, and Bowling Green should be 2 out of the 3 in the championship. And good luck playing for bowls. And now, as we end every segment 2, we're going to talk about HBCUs. I am going to first introduce a Hampton alum and my greatest coach's nemesis, but I love this guy, and I'm glad he's hanging out with us, Damon Pigram. Damon, how are you, first of all?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Good morning,
right.
and thank you for having me on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, HBCUs, good wins by Tennessee State, North Carolina Central, Norfolk State, South Carolina State, Alabama A&M, Mississippi Valley State. I'm surprised they got a win, but we'll talk about that shortly. Jackson State, Southern, Texas Southern, Alcorn State, bad losses by Hampton. Stop losing. You left the conference. I'm still mad at that. North Carolina A&T, Howard, Morgan, and FAMU. FAMU's athletic administration really messed them up. So before I get to Damon, Coach Johnson, you are an HBCU connoisseur. Any thoughts about HBCU?
We need more money across the board. Administration's got to understand that, again, athletics will bring up enrollment, would help so much in terms of donors and so forth. A lot of these, listen, there's a lot of kids want to go to HBCUs, but we got to make it more attractive for them. I love HBCUs. I've coached at Elizabeth City, Tennessee State, Alabama State, Tuskegee. Those are great schools, but we got to do more in terms of the budget, facilities, and things of this nature. We really do. And the top tier programs, again, have good program across the boards because those administrators understand what it takes. We need more, but they're working on that. They're working on that.
All right, before we wrap up, Damon, any thoughts as a Hampton alum? Am I just being too hard on them, or what do you think before we close out?
I've been frustrated for years.
Yes.
We've had this conversation. I've been frustrated for years, and Alfred, I mean, you're right, and it's the level of frustration. I don't think it's that hard of a fix.
No.
I think with money, I mean, whatever that could help. But like I've had this conversation with people. I don't understand why Howard. I don't understand why you're Morehouse. They have national brands. And if you can go, if you're a coach and you have the money and the resources to go into somebody's home, how do you not convince a kid that could go to Harvard or pick a D1 school? But you know what? Hey, I can give you a full ride to Morehouse, and this is how this is going to set your son up or daughter up for life. And Howard has that same national appeal. Not every HBCU, as much as I love Hampton, I don't know how much Hampton can go into LA and pull California kids. Howard can. Morehouse can.
I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, Coach, let me ask you real quickly. How do you feel about you guys leaving the MEAC?
I've lost interest. So when I played, my first 3 years we were in CIAA, and then my senior year we transferred. We were affiliate with the MEAC, but we played an independent schedule.
Okay.
So there's with them going to the Big South and now the CAA and all that stuff. There's no natural rivalries. Like what?
No.
What's the intrigue and what's like? Why do I want to see them play against Campbell? I mean, I don't know anything about Campbell. I ain't going to Campbell.
Who did you play for when you played at Hampton?
My first coach was Zeke Avery, Malcolm Avery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my senior year was Byron Samuels.
Okay.
All right.
Both.
All right,
dudes
so
real
we're
well.
going to pause here and let them have some fun in between segments. And when we get back in segment 3, we're going to talk about things strictly for entertainment purposes only. And we're going to do our own OCP top 12 as we've done every week. But we got Jake here. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Safe Project, with a question for you. Are you passionate about supporting student athletes? If so, then become an official member of the CKA Safe Project and make a difference today. With your membership, you'll be able to help us provide essential academic and athletic support to underserved communities nationwide. Join us in empowering student athletes to achieve their full potential, both on and off the field. Together, we can build a brighter future through education and sports. Visit ckasafeproject.org and choose your membership level now. $25 is a bronze level membership, $50 is a silver level membership, and $100 is a gold level membership. Be a part of the change. Become a member of the CKA Safe Project today. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 3. We got to talk about the difference between seeding and ranking. So, in our top 5, we've got Texas winning the SEC. We got Oregon winning the Big Ten. I have SMU winning the ACC. I still got BYU winning the Big 12 and Boise State being the highest ranked Group of 5 team. So now there's only 7 slots left. And for me, as of this week, and again, Jake, you'll get first dibs. I got Indiana from the Big Ten. I got Ole Miss from the SEC. I got Texas A&M from the SEC. I got Ohio State from the Big Ten. I got Clemson from the ACC, but that next loss that's coming is going to lower them in the rankings, and that's going to be South Carolina. I got Colorado right now, but again, once they play that championship, that's going to be Elimination City. And I've got Notre Dame as an independent. On the outside looking in, I've got Miami ACC, Alabama SEC, Georgia SEC, because your 2 losses are bad, Penn State Big Ten, it's a numbers game, and Army from the American, but Tulane will probably beat them. Jake, any thoughts on the college football playoff as we're trying to be legit?
Yeah, no, I think you've got it sorted out pretty well. The only thing I would say is I think Georgia finds their way in there if they win out, and I think they will. I think they're so talented, and this isn't the Georgia team of the last few years, but they're still very talented, and I still think that they find their way into this mix somehow. Now, who drops out then to let that happen? I don't know. Could it be IU? If IU just gets boat raced by Ohio State, do they fall out? That's a possibility. This Texas, I think, is probably locked in, but they've got to play Texas A&M, and then they've got maybe the SEC championship. Look, Notre Dame, if they lose one of these two coming down the stretch, Army or at SC, they're out. There's no question. So I don't know. And then I think you're right. I think the ACC, that's a one bid league, and the Big 12, that's a one bid league as well. So I don't know. I think the wild card will be what happens with Georgia here coming down the stretch.
Yeah. All right. So season-long picks, as we talk about things strictly for entertainment purposes only. I picked two bad teams in the SEC. I took the over with Georgia and Missouri, 2 L's. Big Ten, I took Maryland in the over. That was a loss. But I took Oregon in over 10.5. They got 11. I go to the pay window. Big 12. Again, a no bum conversation. I had Colorado under 5.5 because I didn't think their interior would be good. I was wrong, and I'm okay with that. And Utah let me down because they had the 8-year career quarterback coming back. So that didn't work out for me. ACC, I had NC State. I got hooked in with NC State. They lost. But I also took SMU and the over, and SMU have already taken me to the pay window. Because Jake's on, I always take Notre Dame because of the BCA. It's real to me. We need somebody to win. So they've got 9 wins with 2 games left, and the over-under was 10.5. So let's go Irish. UMass under 3.5, and their next 2 games are against Georgia and UConn. So I think I'll be fine with that. And the American, I took Memphis in the over. We've got 1 game left. They've got 9 wins. Yes, I'm going to push them in. USF should be better, but they're not. And I hate Trent Dilfer, so I took UAB in the under and went to the pay window. We got Boise State over 9 with 2 games left, and they're at 9. So the next win, I go to the pay window. New Mexico was under 1.5 fans. Robert said don't mess with them, but I did, and I got beat. Conference USA, Liberty was supposed to be undefeated, playing absolutely no one, and that didn't work out for me. And FIU is over 4. They got 2 games left. They got 3 wins. I don't think that's going to happen. Texas State didn't do it for me. And in terms of Maction, we're going to go all the way to the final weekend. Toledo, Western Michigan, both with the over. They need to go 2-0 for me to win. In terms of our Super 7, last week I was 3-4. This week I was 4-3. Showcase game was Utah plus 13.5 against Colorado. I took Utah because they had the best defense, and I thought Colorado would win, but maybe they would have a performance like BYU had. Let's just say they did not. My 2 play took me to the window. South Florida minus 2.5. JMU minus 2.5. Both took care of business. My 3 play, Liberty played UMass. They were a 14.5 favorite and an A+ pick. No, they weren't. They won by 1 point. Tulane took care of business, but BYU lost. My 4 play let me down. K-State lost. Georgia won, Tulane won, and BYU lost. I am not doing well with 4 play money lines. With the over, I'm 11-1 on the season. Tennessee and Georgia over 46.5. With the under, I had Cincy and Iowa State under 53.5. That late touchdown wasn't fun, though. Don't do that. And then my upset pick was Rutgers over Maryland. Sorry. Trying to get my money back with Maryland. You guys can't be losing like that. But Jake, did you do anything strictly for entertainment purposes only this weekend?
Yeah, I had my Irish at 22, so that late touchdown wasn't real nice. But I did have the under as well, so that one cleared. Trying to think who else I had. I took a bunch of dogs. Oh, and I have faded Purdue. I mean, I'm fading Purdue for the rest of this season. That's the worst college football team I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's like the Alabama first half bet from like 3 years ago.
Right, exactly.
I will not ask Coach Johnson because I don't want nobody looking for him. But
No.
Damon, did you do anything strictly for entertainment purposes only?
Not a drop. I hate losing, and if I lose a nickel, it's going to ruin my day. So I watch to watch, and that is it.
And that is good enough.
I'm too
All
much of a
right.
sore loser.
Week 13, Indiana, Ohio State. Jake, throw me a prediction because I haven't looked at the line yet.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the line either. I mean, I think I like the Buckeyes. You know, until I love Indiana, I love this story. I think it's a fantastic story. But until they, until they beat one of these type of teams, I'll believe it when I see it.
I'm with you, Jake. Ryan Day cannot lose to Indiana because he's already got problems. Okay. Penn State, Minnesota, BYU, Arizona State. Be careful. SMU, Virginia. SMU's traveling close. Maybe we should all go to Charlottesville. We're not, but Texas A&M, Auburn. I hope Texas A&M runs up on Hugh Freeze because he shouldn't have got that job. Vandy against LSU. I think the story's over, but they're bowl eligible. Iowa State, Utah, they can't lose anymore. Pittsburgh and Louisville was going to be a nice game, and now since both of them coming off losses, we don't care, but we care about Colorado and Kansas. Jake, you've covered that area. Can Kansas do something to mess it up? Because Colorado is going to Lawrence.
Yeah, I think they can, but look, Kansas just had a big win at BYU. Tough to kind of do that 2 weeks in a row. I think I roll with Coach Prime and the Buffs in that one.
All right, Ole Miss, Florida again. Jake, can Florida do it again? Ole Miss is going to Florida. Billy Napier has got the vote of confidence. His guys are playing well. What better way to say thank you for my job than to upset Ole Miss?
Nah, yeah, that would be a nice story. I don't think it's happening. I really like this Ole Miss team. I think it's a really quality team. Good defense. I like the quarterback. They got some weapons. And Florida. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm taking Ole Miss there.
All right, Army versus Notre Dame at a neutral site. You'll be there, and thank you as always for the picks that we get to share. What are you thinking?
You know, they've got a interior defensive lineman, Howard Cross, who's out. I don't know if he'll be back. I think at the end of the day, I think we win, but I think it's going to be close. Army is a tough team. They will not quit. They play hard week in and week out, but our strength of this team is defense, and I think our defense can play with anyone. And the run defense especially has been really stout. They're fundamentally sound. Hope now I'm jinxing them, but they don't seem to get beat by trick plays, which can harm you against an academy team. They pound the ball, and then they throw a little halfback pass or something. But I think we escape with a win.
Okay. And finally, Boise State has to go to Wyoming. Is that a trap game? What do you think?
No, I think Boise State will take care of business. That's a tough place to play up in Laramie. I've been there a few times. But I think Boise State will handle it.
All right. Coach Johnson, any game next week draws your attention. What are you looking at, sir?
I'm looking at the Indiana game. That's going to be a huge game. If Indiana wins, it will solidify that this is a unbelievable, season, dream season for them. I don't have them favored to win because, like you said, Ryan Daly cannot lose a game like that. He got everybody outside of his family calling for his job. Even though he's been successful, but I got Ohio State winning, and that's the one I'm going to be paying close attention to.
All right, Pig, what you got next week? Any game catch your interest?
Well, I haven't looked at the schedule, but I don't have a loyalty to any college team, and I like the storylines. I think IU. I mean, I've been on this planet for 50 years, and I don't ever remember them being relevant in football.
Right.
What Prime is doing in Colorado. We talk about Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, and he's such an interesting character. And
yes,
I find myself, for whatever reason, LSU, Miles just rubs me the wrong way. It's just easy to root against that guy for me. So I'm more about the storylines, and I like the format is interesting for the playoffs because it gives me kind of that March Madness feel, where your Boise State can knock off maybe a Georgia or something like that. I kind of like that format. So I'm interested to see it. Interested to see how it all plays out.
All right, so folks, this has been fun. So on behalf of our cavalcade of stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.